Okay, so we've managed to get all of this run, the cable all the way up in here. I ran it right up underneath the door, under this part here. There's just enough room. Oh, there's a spot sticking out. There's just enough room where you can stick it in there to hide it, and then you can run it all the way up. So let me actually do this too, I'll show you, because I actually took the seat out so I could hide it under here. So I run it up through the cover. I just ran it up through the little side right there. It's pretty much hidden right all the way up through the driver's side. Pretty easy. And then you got you got your anchors. I just used the anchor, child seat anchor, just to kind of hook around, just to hold it in place a little bit better. But of course the seats, fortunately with us, we have where we can remove them. So there we go. But then I just kind of worked it up through this way, all the way up. So it's all along here. God, this car is nasty right now, kids. Okay. So yeah, I ran it all the way up through here, all the way up to the back, all the way up through. And then I will get to this part here in a minute. This is another freaking annoying thing. This whole thing's been annoying, but it's doable by any particular DIYer. Alright, so this part is just like our seats. I actually popped this out so that way I could run the wires down through here. Where your defroster is, right here, you can run the wires down to the side. So once you get it run up, you can run it up through your fuse bay here. Just run it right straight up through there. It's actually easier if you take that off, so you can go down in there, or take the cover off and just kind of snake it up through here first, and then pull it tight, and then run it back up through. So running up, so this part's going to be pretty much the only visible part really, because it's not easy to hide this in there, because that is a very awkward placement for the trim right there. So it's probably going to be the only place that I'm really going to have anything really visible. But we go over here on this side. There's another thing that I'm not too big on, where the clamps, the clips actually are right here. So I've had to run the wire down through there. It's pretty tight up through here, but around there, it didn't do so bad until I got to right up here in the headliner. So here is a fun part. Got all run up through here. I want to make sure I tuck all the rest of this in, because the headliner is very tight, which is a good thing if you weren't doing a project like this. It's very nice to know that this headliner is very tight. But, so when you hook up everything, you've got your cables that go into, this is actually one of the backup, or the screen is actually inside this. It just clamps onto your existing rearview mirror, and you got your controls on the back. But when you have to hook it up, you go back through yet again and run it back down. So that's where the red and black wire, this red and black wire are running back through that way. But up here, you can't figure out where to put the little connections, because this will get you set up right where you're in this area with the connections. There's just enough room right up in this driver's side corner here where you can stick it in there. You have to force it back, but it actually is just loose enough to where you can get it in there. There's just enough of a gap so you can get all those connections right up in there, including your power cable connection. This little thing is actually going to be clipped and just put out of the way. It's kind of like an extra connector for whatever reason. So we've got, all the RCA cables are actually up in there. The connections are hidden. If you look on the front, there's the actual top of our car just completely blocking it. So there's no visible parts there except for what I haven't hidden yet, which will be taken care of. I was going to try to run it through there, but apparently you have to go in, remove all this, remove your center console, radio, all this junk, just to get to that, because you have your extra access, whenever you don't have your battery working, keyhole there, so it's got an extra plug-in. So it's basically kind of like a safety feature, I guess. So what I'm actually doing is I kind of looked around trying to figure out which one is the best connection for this, and I'm thinking, okay, well, the 12 volt, as I was originally planning, just doing a straight wire into it. So that way, of course, when it turns on, it'll turn the screen on, have it powered on and ready just for when the backup camera comes on. So here's where the fun part, another fun part comes in. So you got your door that you actually take off to get to fuses, but then you also have this trim panel that you have to pull out. Okay, so that's a little bit of an annoyance. That's going to be fun to get back in. Then you've got, really, to find which one it is. It's actually on your owner's manual. It's F1, which is this, well, there was a yellow one, a yellow fuse right down here, right at the very bottom. That controls your plug-in. So now what I'm doing is I'm opening this part up to get to the wire there, and I'm just going to splice it right into that, so that way it runs off the 12 volt. When it powers on, you've got that going. But this is not easy to get out either. You have to remove two 7mm bolts, which are right here, screws, bolts. Pretty much everything in this car that I've worked with so far on the, taking apart, all this stuff has all been 7mm screws or Torx, and these have all been screws. But you have to get up in there. There's a hole right there, so you have to pull this off, get down in there with a tight fit, which these that fit into one of your screwdrivers actually works really well to get into the hole. It's just basically connects up to your wrench. So I got a 7mm here, but it just goes down in there, and then you can stick it into your screwdriver, which has the standard, exchangeable screwdriver head there. And yeah, it's still a little too long, but I managed to make it work once you get it pulled out, because then the next step is to actually take this off. There's a I'm so tired, sorry, strap that's holding this part in there. So the wires, and this of course is all this unclamped. There's just simple clamps there, but this is holding everything together, so I can't really take this off until I go in there and clip that off. And I'll hook in the wires right in there into, specifically I'll splice them into where the wire comes in for the what should be these two, wherever it goes into F1. So it's pretty easy. You just kind of follow it back and you can see which ones go where. Anyway, there we go. On to the next. Hopefully we'll have this all ready. I'll do a follow-up here shortly.